Matt Bernier taking a look at the Sam F. Davis Day late pick 4 sequence at Tampa Bay Downs, races 9 through 12. Scheduled post time for the 9th race, 4:22 Eastern. I don't usually enjoy giving out tickets to you. I want to give you ideas and give you horses. Some of you will agree, some of you will disagree, but the idea is then you take those opinions, go into DRF Ticketmaker, put your plays in, emphasize your opinions accordingly, and then hit that Bet Now button, and you can go right through and make this play all on DRF Bets. One-stop shop. It's all covered for you. But again, I'm going to just go through each one of these races, give you some horses to consider. Again, maybe you'll agree, maybe you'll disagree. We'll kick things off with the 9th race. It's the Suncoast for 3-year-old fillies, a mile and 40 yards on the main track. 3 horses that I was kind of taking a look at, the 3, the 4, and the 7. The 7 Point of Honor, I think, makes plenty of sense for George Weaver. Off the turf in that career debut, but ultimately went out there and won by more than 6 lengths. Irad Ortiz was up that day. Javier has the mount here on Saturday afternoon. Time Form had that race rated slightly faster than the Beyer boys did, but at the end of the day, I think it's a promising enough debut, going 2 turns, first time out of the box, and really appreciating the distance. You see the pedigree by curling out of a Bernardini mare, so there's plenty of things to like here for this horse, the number 7 Point of Honor, 6-1 on the morning line. I thought the 3 Tappett's Princess was interesting for Happy Alter. This is a filly that stretched out from 5.5 furlongs to 8.5 furlongs in her second lifetime start, still in maiden special weight ranks. Went out there, all she did was win by 9 in gate-to-wire fashion. I like that early speed that she had shown that day, which was a little bit different than that career debut. More importantly, though, again, when you just kind of compare speed figures, the Beyer folks gave that race a 65. Timeform US gave it a 94. That's roughly a 29-point difference. And I've said it a number of times, there's usually about a 20-point differential between the two. When one is higher than the other, it's up to you as the handicapper to do a little bit of homework. I'm going to just kind of side with the Timeform number and say, you know what, there's a chance that Beyer could be considerably lighter than what it should be. In a spot like this at 8-1, I'll definitely be using the 3 Tappett's Princess. And then the 4 Lady Kate. Lady Kate, admittedly, of the 3 horses, probably the one that I'm least intrigued with, but I think you do want to use this one for Eddie Keneally. Broke the maiden in the career debut. Jose Ortiz was aboard that day, retains the mount here. 6-1 on the morning line. You see that pedigree. Bernardini out of a Street Cry mare. They paid almost $500,000 for this one. We'll find out about the stretch out in distance from 6 furlongs to 1 mile and 40 yards. Move on to the 10th race, the second leg of this pick 4 sequence, the Grade 3 Endeavor. You can find the stakes preview over on video.drf.com or the Racing Forms YouTube channel. As of the moment that I'm taping this, I still don't know where Rimska is going to go for Chad Brown, but I'm going to assume that she runs here. There's a real chance that she runs over at Gulfstream. It is what it is. You're going to have to adapt on the fly. If she runs here, she's a logical contender. Admittedly, I've never loved Rimska. I liked her early on. I actually picked her in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf all the way back in 2016. Since then, she's had some issues. You see just a number of layoff lines. Her best race, she's the best horse in the race. I just don't know if I absolutely love her at a short number, but if she goes here, I think you have to use her. The other horse that I was intrigued with is the number 2, Get Explicit. This one goes out for Barb Minshall. I like the fact that as a 3-year-old, she just continued to improve. And I understand anyone that looks at it and says when she took on better horses in graded stakes company, she just couldn't pass the test. I think that's being a little bit unkind. You know, she was 70-1 in that Valley View, almost won, and that was a day. I know that you had Daddy's is a Legend who went through the inner rail, and Colonia had a pretty good trip in the grand scheme of things. I just think that was a pretty solid race, and that Mrs. Revere over Yielding Ground, yeah, she ran well, and she does like Yielding Ground, but at the same time, I just think this is a nice filly. She's a newly turned 4-year-old, paired up career Beyer tops of 89 in her last 2 starts as a 3-year-old. Rafael Hernandez takes the mount here. I just think this one's interesting at odds of 9-2. Now we'll move on to the 11th race. Happens to be the DRF Bets race of the day for Saturday, the Sam F. Davis. Again, video.drf.com as well as the Racing Forms YouTube channel if you want to find that out, all that stuff, the expanded preview. Illman and I go through this horse by horse. Spoiler, if you haven't seen it, I don't have a strong opinion in here. I don't happen to love any of these horses. You have to use Nick Sco, in my opinion. He's the most complete horse in the race. Cave Run, I thought the debut was promising enough. The Pasco, not great, but at the same time, not a disaster. I want to use this horse defensively. The 6 Kentucky Wildcat, a lot of love for this horse. I'm not 100% sold, but again, from a numbers standpoint, strictly the horse to beat. Highest last out Beyer, highest last out raw time form rating. The 7 5-star General, I'm dubious about the distance, but at the end of the day, back-to-back victories, paired up Beyer tops of 74. Both times stretched out to 1-turn miles. We'll find out how he handles 2 turns. The 9 well-defined, I think, is a little bit dirtied up. Draw a line through that Mucho Macho Man, up forward, hot pace, kind of fell apart off of a bit of a layoff. The Breeders' Cup didn't work out. 3 starts back, you have a 91 Beyer speed figure and a 7.5 length victory in that Florida bred stakes race. A little bit dirtied up. Don't love the horse given the pace situation, but one that I'd consider at a big number underneath. And then the number 10, the horse that I ultimately picked, Still Dreaming. Again, don't love the horse. Don't think he beat a heck of a lot, but the pedigree is there. He's a half to Nyquist. He's trained by Graham Motion, who's won a Kentucky Derby. West Point Thoroughbreds. They were involved with Always Dreaming a couple years back. Still Dreaming would be my tepid pick in here, but again, this is a race that's an absolute spread for me in any kind of multi-race sequence. And then we get into the finale, race number 12. You got to love it when you get those stakes races all together, and then we go and button things up with the $16,000 claimer. 4 horses that I was intrigued with. The 1, the 6, the 9, and the 10. The 1 is Adios Nardo. You had that really, really long layoff between October of 17 and December of 18. Needed that race, but guess what? I say needed the race more so because it was off the turf. Horse ultimately went out and won, but then you come back onto the grass and that second start off the bench gets the job done. 100 raw time form rating and 81 Beyer, I think stacks up quite well in this spot. The 6 horse is definitely one that I'm intrigued with, Huntstown. Now, Huntstown might be a little bit dirtied up, given the fact that I think from a numbers standpoint really isn't that far off from some of the main players in here. 4-1 on the morning line, getting tremendous class relief. I think they go a long way for this horse. Daniel Centeno takes them out here. A couple other horses that you may want to consider, the 9 and the 10. I think the 9 Natural Order. This is possibly a horse that, if you just look at the time form rating, the 101 raw, that most recent run at Gulfstream Park, and you compare that to the 68 Beyer that he earned, I mean, there's a giant chasm there. And if you want to side with the time form rating, you take 20 points off that. An 81 Beyer makes this horse squarely a player. And it is also heartening to know that this horse has run in the low to mid 80s in the past. I think this is one at 6-1 that I'd be very, very intrigued with. And number 10, Funny Questions for Dale Bennett, second off of a long layoff. I think you're going to get a forward move here. Admittedly, this one I think is a little bit probably more of a fringe contender. If I'm playing with Ticketmaker, it's going to probably be a B or a C, but definitely one that I'd be considering using in this finale, the 12th race, the 4th and final leg of this Pick 4 sequence at Tampa Bay Downs on Sam F. Davis Saturday. Again, it's a sequence that you really want to be using DRF Ticketmaker. Emphasize your opinions, and the beautiful thing about that, you go through, you make your A's, your B's, your C's, and there's that Bet Now button. You click that, it goes right through into DRF Bets. You are good to go. You don't need to go through and punch individual tickets left and right. It's all taken care of for you. Definitely DRF Ticketmaker and DRF Bets is the way to go. This sequence, 9 through 12, scheduled post time for the first leg, race number 9, the Suncoast down at Tampa Bay Downs on Sam F. Davis Saturday, 4:22 Eastern. Good luck.